Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hotho. On today's episode, we're talking to Meg, the real Professor McCreight. Meg is competing this year as an upper one point of contact athlete and is hoping to make it back to the CrossFit Games. In this conversation, we touch on Meg's journey throughout competitive CrossFit, especially in dealing with seeing the gray in training rather than this black and white of success and failure, doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. It's a really helpful discussion that I think many of us can relate to. Now, before we dive in, I want to give a quick heads up that this episode includes a discussion about eating disorders. So if that's a sensitive topic for you, feel free to skip ahead or take breaks as needed. If you or someone you know is struggling, you can find support at nationaleatingdisorders.org. Well, today we're joined by Meg, the real Professor McCreight. Meg, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Matt.
So Meg, what makes you the real professor?
So I actually do teach at a college. I teach radiology, and then I also do CT and radiology at a local hospital. So yeah, I feel like I am the real professor
Compared
doing the CrossFit.
Compared to Brett Fikowski.
Right. I mean, he's pretty smart, but I've got the degrees backing it up.
I love it. Do you feel like you approach workouts like Brett, though? Do you have like that heady approach to breaking up a workout and doing that kind of stuff?
Back in the day when I took CrossFit very seriously, yes. And I used to know like, okay, this movement's going to take me this long. I should pace it like this. I should do, like I was hardcore into it. But now I'm just trying to do it for movement. So probably not so much anymore.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. I oscillate between the two. One of my friends asked me the other day, he says, do you think you're a little too heady? And I'm like, yes, but I think it's my superpower.
Your superpower. I love it.
So we'll see what happens. So Meg, you're an adaptive athlete. What's your impairment?
So I have Erb's palsy in my right arm, which means basically I don't have control over my right bicep. I was born with it. So I it severed my cervical brachial nerve. So I was doing 2 point of contact for a long time because with the barbell, like I could hold it with my left hand. And if my right arm was like hooked under it, it could still work. But it didn't really have I couldn't do a dumbbell movement, for example, with my right arm overhead because it would fall on my face. So I did 2 point for a long time. And now in the last month, I've switched to 1 point. So
do you have control of your tricep on that arm?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate. My mom did some physical therapy on me, but for example, Stephen Walker, he also has Erb's palsy, but his mom did not do the therapy, or at least when we've talked, he said that he didn't really have a lot of therapy and stuff growing up, but that allowed me to gain a lot of strength in other areas of my body, like my tricep and my pectorals and my shoulder and stuff like that. So I compensate a lot, but growing up, I mean, this would be considered a congenital disorder, right? I felt like I always had to hide it. I was extremely shy. I was doubted myself. I felt like I had to prove something, and I couldn't prove something with my arm. So I turned to academics. My brother was better at sports than me because he had 2 functioning arms, but hey, I was smarter than him. So my parents praised me for that. So I just kept going to school.
I know what that's
how
like. Come on now.
It all comes around. Yep.
So when you say growing up, you had to hide it in some ways, would you just kind of protect it or would you lie about what happened to it? For me, when people would ask me why I walked that way, especially as I got a little bit older, I would say it was a tennis injury because it would at least make it sound like I was,
Matt, that makes me sad.
Well, it was a way to just not make it be like, oh, you have a disability. It was more like, oh, you were athletic. It was a terrible lie, but it was you were athletic at some point, and then, oh, your athleticism led to you having this, injury, right? I don't know. I did it when I was in high school and then a little bit in my early 20s, just when I didn't want to, when I was getting into new circles, right? Going off to college. Oh my gosh, I haven't talked about this with anybody, but going off to college, I feel like for adaptives, we learn our whole crew in elementary, middle school, and high school. And sometimes I feel like we go off to college and it's like, oh crap, now I really have to do I tell people what this actually is? Or do I just say it's something else? And in college, I just chose to say it was a tennis injury.
That's fair. I get it.
And then people would be like, oh, you play tennis? It's like, oh yeah, I was good. And then I just dug the hole deeper.
Do you even play tennis?
No.
That's fair though. Okay, so growing up, my parents wanted me to be quote unquote normal. So they taught me to do everything right-handed. And then, in middle school or elementary school, I would be eating and, my elbows sticking straight out, like a 90-degree angle. And that's when I started realizing everyone was making fun of me, and my elbow sticks out a little bit when I walk. Like, I'm sure you and I and all the adaptives, we all see our disabilities in every single picture.
Hmm.
My boyfriend teases me a lot because he's like, "You're not even really adaptive." Like when he tells people that I do adaptive CrossFit, they're like, "What are you talking about? Like, she's not,
Hmm.
disabled," because they don't see it. I do
Yeah.
everything left-handed now, except right. I still write right-handed. Never figured that one out, but um, similar thing, but not really. But when I was a kid, I was so mortified of my disability. I was trying to hide it so much that I was like really rude to people when they pointed it out. Like I'd be running, like I played soccer and I'd be running and you would see it sticking out a little bit. And they'd be like, "Oh, did you break your arm?" And I'd be like, "I have a disability," because that shuts people up quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I felt like, okay, you don't go up to a burn victim and say, "What happened to your face?" And I felt like people did that to me all the time. They would come up to me and be like, "What's wrong with your arm?" And I'd be like, "It's none of your business."
Yeah.
And now, oh my God, now anybody asks me and I'm like, "Oh my God, let me tell you everything about Iris palsy, and let me tell you about
Right.
Leowad." And
Right. Right.
it's,
Yeah.
it's now that I'm proud of it and I realize all the things that have come that have been great out of my life because of my disability. Now I'm so proud of it. And people don't tease me anymore. They're like, "You get to go to the CrossFit games?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
luck.
That's
Keep
right.
training." Yeah.
Or when people will say like, "Oh, like in my gym," they'll sometimes say like, "Oh, you're an elite athlete," and I'm like, I
Well,
guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. In my division, I
uh-huh.
am. Yes, I
Right,
am an
right,
elite
right.
athlete, you know?
It's so
Um,
crazy.
yeah, it is crazy, right? And
Hmm.
it's that difference. Well, it's not the difference. It's just when you're born with it and you've kind of spent your whole life telling yourself this story of who you are, who you
Yeah.
aren't, and then you have to you get this opportunity to kind of
Hmm.
retell the story, right?
Hmm.
And we'll get into this more in the interview, but this idea of like reintegrating or integrating I've been watching Severance, not reintegrating, but integrating ourselves, more fully into who we are,
Hmm.
our whole self, right?
Yes. Finding who
Yeah.
you really are and not just being identified as quote unquote disabled or Erb's palsy or yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and not being offended when someone would identify you that way because you're like, no, that is part of who I am.
It's
And
part
there's
of it.
so much more. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So seeing it as a
Totally.
door opening to tell somebody, yeah, and then can I tell you about CrossFit?
Right? I I used to joke with Kevin Ogar. I was like, "We need like a pamphlet," because the number of times I see somebody in like a wheelchair and I go up to them, I'm like, "Can I tell you about my Lord and Savior CrossFit?"
Yeah.
I'm just
Yes.
like, "Let me tell you about how much it changed my life," because it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
The people that we've met have been the coolest people in the entire world, and they're all so, so nice because we were all probably teased at some point. We've all overcome. Yeah, the adaptives are literally the coolest people in the entire world, and that's why I'm
Hmm.
I'm striving for the games just one more time in my old age, just because
I
I just
love
want to
it.
go see everybody. I miss
Hmm.
everyone,
Yeah.
but eventually I do think I want to get involved with Feel Lot and help them out because it's an amazing organization.
Look, we're
Stouty
going to be
started
the
something
elder
amazing.
statesmen.
We
We're
are
going to,
the OGs, yo.
yeah. Oh, you're over 40? Go get involved with Wheel One.
Yeah,
Stop competing.
yeah,
Just go get involved. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's true outside of CrossFit too. I actually had on the podcast a para climber with CP, and
Yes.
she described how when she walked into nationals, it was like, oh, we're just together, right? All of that
Hmm.
just sense of whether you're in a wheelchair, you have an impairment,
Hmm.
or you have a neurological or neuromuscular disorder, like you just all that subtext is out of the way. You're a gathered people who all share a similar experience in
Right.
some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all trying to make sure everyone feels included and helped. And yeah, we all have felt vulnerable and now we don't have a problem, saying it in front of somebody else, like, "Hey, can you help me move these weights?" And they're like, "Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's how I do wall balls. How do you do them?" Like I
Yeah.
love that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's talk about finding that community. So how did you find CrossFit, the community, the competitive CrossFit side of things?
Okay, so no joke, I feel like I have a really cool story. So I've been doing CrossFit since 2016. I've always worked out, I've always been athletic, but I always had a personal trainer because I was mortified to go to the gym. Like I wanted somebody to work with me one-on-one and help me gain strength in that right arm, but I did not want everyone to see me because so many people, if you go to like a Globo gym, they like come up to you and they're like, "Oh, you're not doing that right."
Oh
And
my
that's when
gosh.
I would say I'm handicapped, so that they just
Yeah.
leave me
Yeah.
alone because
Leave me
it's
alone.
like I'm mortified being here. Please don't point out what I'm doing wrong because I'm not wrong. It's how I do it.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, so my personal trainer ended up opening a CrossFit gym and I resisted for a long time because I was mortified to work out in front of other people, but he finally convinced me to try it and loved it. I only did it for a year here in Cleveland. And then that's when I moved out to Colorado in 2017. And I found my family there, NCS out in Colorado Springs. And I met the one coach there. She, Bryn, I'm going to call her out because I love her so much. She really helped me learn all of this stuff. She had worked with some adaptives before, mostly intellectual, but I was her first herbies. And she just was super supportive and helped me learn and figure out ways to do things. And then during COVID, during the 2020 games, they had an ad during the games about this movie called an adaptive, or what was it called? An athlete first. And
Okay.
I've been trying to find this movie ever since, and I can't find it anymore. Like they took it down or something, but it was interviewing four athletes: Stouty, Kevin Ogar, Logan, and I forget the girl's name. I think she had CP as well, but it was
Steph
total
Hammerman.
life changer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You are so good at all of this. You're like meant for this. Um, but no,
He has
like
an
the
encyclopedic knowledge about very weird things.
you should be on Jeopardy for like
Yeah.
adaptive CrossFit. um, but no, the movie was life changing because I didn't even know that there were adaptives out there,
Yeah.
and it was all about Wadapalooza. And so I was like, I watched it like 5 times, and I was just like, I want to do this. I want to be under the lights and try to work out 2 point of contact. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was already obsessed with the CrossFit main athletes, like the able-bodied athletes. And then I did what I normally do, and I'm sure most of the athletes know that I have stalked them on Instagram some one way or another. I just find like I've never actually met you, but like we found each other, and now we're Instagram friends. And
Right.
that's what I do with like everyone. And that's how I've started finding all the adaptive people, and it's amazing because my feed is full of people doing amazing stuff. And I've connected with so many people that I've never even met. But I found Kevin Ogar, and I reached out to him. I found out that his gym was in Denver and it was like an hour away from me. And so Bryn and I packed up our stuff and we drove out to Denver and met
Mm.
him and Shannon. And oh, his gym is so cool. Watchtower, if you ever get a chance to go. But yeah, I told him that I really wanted to go to Wadapalooza. And he was like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll help you, yada, yada, yada. Here's some tips. And then he's like, you should really do wheel wad. And I was like, no way. I was like, no way could I do this. Because I was like looking at, I was like, I can't compete against Logan and Casey and like, these elite
Yeah.
superstars in our division. And anyways, I went for it, and then I actually made it. And so I made both Wadapalooza and Wheel Wad games that year,
Hmm.
and total life changing. So I went out to News River for the 21 games, came in second place my first year, and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Um, then a couple months later, went to Wadapalooza, and I met Emily Avery, and I met Casey again, and I met the woman who inspired me that made me realize that I could do pull-ups. Because I mean, I didn't even know I could do pull-ups up until I had seen her do them on Instagram when I was stalking all these people. And game changer. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I feel like this is the biggest blessing of my life. Because man, I, I'm sure you can say the same thing. We have done some really cool things, like absolutely amazing things.
I mean, it's a testament to the space that John Prescott, Chris Stoutenberg, Kevin Ogar, Shannon Ogar,
Love, 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 love.
Leslie
Oh,
Manning, Lisa Gull, the whole team at Wheelwad. Sorry if
mm-hmm.
I left anybody off, but has created where we can get to have these moments of being elite competitors,
Yeah.
competing against other elites
Yes.
and feeling the elation of winning an
Hmm.
event, and
Hmm.
then the also frustration, heartbreak,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I've got to
Do
get better
better.
at this,
Yeah.
of you pushed me and you
Hmm.
found my weakness.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we wouldn't get that, to get that in an able-bodied competition.
Right. You don't.
It'd be very hard.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, okay. Let's do this instead,
Hmm.
And Stouty's just like, do better. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
So
You're right.
so you were there in 21 and 22. So
Yeah.
21 was at News River. Wheelwad 22
So
was in the
cool.
Expo Hall.
So cool. They did
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
photos that I've seen on your Instagram are just like, you had this community of all the upper body
Hmm.
athletes, right? Stephen Walker, Victor,
Yeah. Made
all
some of
these,
my best friends
Lloyd.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Lloyd.
So you make all these friends, and then tell me what happens next? Kind of maybe getting a little too close to the sun, and then what happens after
Hmm.
that? Yeah.
It was at the 22 games that we were practicing. I don't remember what the move. Oh, chest to bar pull-ups. And I was in the warm-up area and I was talking to Johnny, and Johnny's a game changer. He's an amazing, amazing man. I met him right before in 21, before he had his I don't know what he wants to call it, accident,
Yeah.
trauma. I'm sorry. I'm doing a horrible job. I don't want to talk for Johnny, but met him before and I met him after, and amazing, amazing man. I love him to death. He's doing so many great things for the community. But I was talking to him and trying to get some advice last minute right before the competition. And he was like, have you ever thought about getting a coach? He's like, you're good enough. You can make it. And I was like,
Yeah.
really? So I started looking for a coach and I ended up hiring Casey right after the games, because Casey's the best of the best, hands down. I mean, he is good enough to be a games able
Yeah.
body. He was in the running with the able bodies. He's stupid, sick, strong. And I started training hardcore with him for about 9 months. And I hired, another nutritionalist and was counting my macros down to a T. And I was doing blood work to see what else I need. And I was
Mm.
doing all the therapies and the ice baths. Oh my God, why are we doing ice baths? Like, come on, people, like this is horrible. um, Anyways, I'm over all that. I went hard. I was doing 2 to 3 hours in the gym a day. I got in stupid great shape. Loved the way my body looked, but it wasn't sustainable, and my relationship suffered. Like I remember being out of town and being like, well, I got to get home by 6 o'clock so I can make it to the gym and at least do this 2 3 hour workout. And I don't have kids, but I have two fur baby dogs, and like I felt horrible because like I couldn't go do anything with them. I was literally working and then going to the gym for the rest of the night. And then I'd come home and, I always used to joke that, you say CrossFit gives you energy and then you have to take like 3 hour naps, right? That was
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't doing anything with my dogs and I didn't have time to date. Like, how do you date somebody when you're like at the gym all day?
Hmm.
And then I had to meal prep Sunday. I was meal prepping for 3 4 hours and it wasn't for me. And then I blew out my knee because one thing that I still haven't figured out, and that's okay, is pistols. And I was just like going hard, and I was like, I gotta get pistols, do better. That's what was drilled
Mm.
into my head. And so I was practicing and practicing, practicing, and then I blew this cartilage that's right behind my kneecap of my left knee. And I'm sure part of it is also I grew up playing hockey. I was a goalie in ice hockey, and I'm sure part of it is slamming my knee down into the
Sure.
ice for years and blew out my knee, and it blew up to like 2 times its normal size. I couldn't
Mm.
even walk. Like I said, my second job is doing CT at a hospital, and I couldn't do my second job. And I was like, this is horrible. Like I couldn't even walk or do my second job. And I was like, this is a problem. And I mentally went down a really bad spiral where I lost my identifier. I was really going for the games hard and I wanted to win like Casey. And then suddenly I was injured and I couldn't even walk. So I went to a bunch of doctors, went a lot of PT. They said that I was too old for cartilage replacement, but too young for a knee replacement, which was very encouraging. So It was the first time I ever quit CrossFit. And I quit CrossFit for a year and 3 months. And then
Okay.
I've been itching to come back. My knee's finally ish better, but I have no interest in doing pistols. Like I'll be straight up. If Kevin schedules pistols in the workout, I'm going to be like, deuce, have fun.
Yeah.
I will cheer all y'all on, but I'm 40. I don't need to be doing this anymore. I'm not willing to hurt my body just to get a movement. Like it was finding the balance. It was finding the gray and losing the black and white of CrossFit.
In the black and white of CrossFit, which I think is really interesting. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, right? Like we want to be the best at something, we want to have it all figured out. And because of how measurable, observable, and repeatable CrossFit is, it can sometimes give us some things to chase after that might not always be the healthiest things. So, can you tell me a little bit about your journey with struggling with the black and white of CrossFit?
I feel like a lot of us get into CrossFit and we're in the, I'm going to do it. Some of us are like 5 days a week, but some of us are like, I'm going to do it 7 days a week. I don't need a rest day and everything. But I feel like a lot of us are type A kind of people and we like to have a checklist and we like to say, I'm going to do this, 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 and today. I don't know if I'm the only one who's actually written things on a checklist that I've already done just to check them off, like that
Hmm.
kind of level of like, I don't know, OCD. It is
Yeah, yeah,
OCD.
yeah.
Seriously. Um, so along those lines, in the last couple of years, I've also been diagnosed with OCD. And with that was when I discovered all my eating disorders. And they've gone back since I was like 14, I think when my parents were getting divorced. And I just felt like I needed to have control over something. And so like having control over food and what I put in my body was something that I could do, and exercising, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so like for me, I've done all of the things. I've done anorexia, bulimia, a binge and purge, laxatives, all of that. And I never really thought of it was a problem. I always thought of it as just being super healthy. Like I would eat the same 10 things every single day because I knew the exact amount of macros each of those meals were. And I always thought it was super healthy. And people would look at me and be like, how do you eat so healthy? And I felt like I would be judged. I would go to a restaurant and people would be like, oh, you're just going to have a salad with no cheese and no dressing, as always. And I was very self conscious of it. And I hated eating in front of people.
Mm.
And then a couple years ago, yeah, I started doing some therapy to just with all the other stuff I was transitioning with the knee injury and losing my identity with CrossFit and all of that. And that's when the therapist asked me, she's like, well, do you get any enjoyment out of food? And before she even finished the sentence, I was like, no, no, no. Like I
Yeah,
don't eat
yeah.
for enjoyment. And that's when it started. And it was a very hard pill to swallow to like accept it and like learn about it. She recommended a book called I'm So Glad My Mom Died by Jenna McCurdy. And I know that sounds horrible, but I guess she's a girl who did iCarly, which God, that's not in my generation, but I've heard of it. But she had extreme eating disorders. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I read that book, I literally was crying. I was like, oh my God, this, like reading it, I was like, this is not normal. But then I was like, holy crap, I've done so many of these things. And I thought they were normal. And I would do them in hiding and I would binge so much. I would have calendars of like plus days and minus days of how many calories in versus how many calories out, and a checklist of like, did you do 2 workouts today? Did you pray today? Did you, do something, whatever the thing was that I wanted to get accomplished in my checklist. And it was actually like I kept that calendar just because it was so sad that I lived that way. And if I had a binge day, I wouldn't even track calories anymore. And I would just eat everything and be like, this is the last time. I would never have anything, no quote unquote junk food in my house. Everything was labeled bad and good. Just like I kind of feel like CrossFit is, like so many people say, oh, I did a workout and I could have done it better. I should have done it better. And oh, I ate decent today, but I shouldn't have had that extra cheese on there or the dressing on the salad or, whatever. The portion was too big. And I think we just need to learn how to love ourselves and love our bodies and let go of that. And like, I'm down to 3 days a week of CrossFit. I know I need to
Mm.
do more than that if I want to compete, but I do some workout at home and I'm low key about it and I don't care. Like I said, if I want to go take a walk with my dogs, I take a walk with my dogs.
Right.
And it was a super win the other day. Like when I I started working with a nutritionist. She asked me like, what's the one thing that I could never have in the house? And I was like, ice cream. And so literally it's taken up until about a month ago. And that was the first time I had ice cream in my freezer. And the other day we came home from church and I was hungry and I ate some ice cream for breakfast and I didn't hate myself. And that's something that a couple years ago I would not have been able to do. And I know there's other CrossFitters who are also just as serious as I was. And I'm sure they're having similar feelings that I have to do better. When you don't, you need to find the gray.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. And thank you so much for witnessing to that for the people in our community who might be struggling with an eating disorder, or like you when you were talking about reading Jen McCarthy's book and being like, oh, this is
yeah,
me, right? Like maybe
yeah,
somebody's listening to this right now going, oh, I thought that was normal behavior,
right.
right? And someone maybe listening is like, no, it's not. Maybe I need to go talk to somebody. Maybe I actually need to
Hmm.
reach out to Meg on Instagram and
Please, I would
talk.
love to talk to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, talk
Well,
to somebody about it.
so then I follow a lot of people on Instagram, like the main CrossFitters, and there's Katrin, David's daughter, right? And like she used to show pictures of like her food and everything that she ate and the macros next to it and all of that. And she would go to restaurants with Tupperware of chicken and broccoli and rice. And so I was like, that's what you do if you're an elite athlete. And so that's what I did. And I remember doing that to a kid's birthday party and they were all having pizza and I brought my stupid Tupperware. And it was so sad when he looked at me and he's like, you're not going to have pizza? What are you doing? And I was like, oh no, like I used to pretend I was gluten free just so that like people wouldn't approach me. I'd be like, oh, I can't have that. It's gluten, because then it kind of gave me an out.
Hmm.
Um, but I think, yeah, especially with congenital disorder people, I think we are always looking to try to control something since so much of what we can and can't do, we can't stand that can't label. So we try to control things by controlling the food that we put in our body. And I was looking for like single ingredient foods. So I think the last thing that helped me realize that I had a disorder was I was doing a Bible huddle like study group thing a couple years ago, and there are so many mentions in the Bible about Jesus breaking bread with others, and I realized like especially after that birthday party with the kid like I wasn't doing that. Like I would have so much anxiety and freak out if people asked me to go out to eat because I was like, I won't be able to count the macros on that. And I would just, I don't know. I didn't want to eat around people because I always felt judged, even though I was trying to be healthy. So, yeah, towards the end of that Bible study, we went out for Mexican and it was like kind of like a breaking point for me. And I got the margarita and I got the salsa and I did not count how many chips I ate and it was wonderful. So,
I think that's a beautiful story. As someone who works in a church, I think that's going to change the way I read those stories about Jesus breaking bread with people and eating around a
right.
table, because so many of his parables or even just his interactions happen around a dinner table,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's just such an interesting perspective change, though, that you found in community. I want to highlight just a couple of things that
Hmm.
you said that I think somebody can take away from this. One, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, get into a community and talk to somebody about it, right?
Yeah.
Get it out there,
Yeah.
because you're going to find that no, it isn't. Yes, it's normal in the sense that you're not alone,
Hmm.
um, but
Yeah.
then you're going to discover how to fix what's actually at the root of it,
Yeah.
right? Which is that
Right.
need for control, or that
Hmm.
need to feel ownership over our bodies. Because like you said about the congenital, growing up with a congenital disorder, like I was talking in the episode prior to this one with Tom Miaska, and we were kind of reflecting on how we push ourselves really hard because we've always wanted to make up for this thing
Yep.
that we kind of have, right? And we don't want it to be
Hmm.
the thing that defines us. So we constantly are running out looking for the thing that can define us, other
Yes.
than this thing that we are, that we're born with,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
it's it's that ongoing work of integrating that into our lives in a healthy way. Um,
Hmm.
so thank you so much for witnessing to what you've gone through, the journey that you've been on. And if anybody is listening to this podcast and is going on that journey, they can reach out to you, right?
Yes, please. Binge eating is not normal, you guys. Like seriously, like, and it took me a really long time to realize that. So I would love to help somebody find help because you don't need to hate yourself. Everyone is awesome just the way they are. So,
All right. So switching gears without a clutch, as you're re-entering the competitive space, what's your mindset like?
mm. So okay. So I've actually always been 2 point and literally like around Valentine's Day this year, I decided to switch to 1 point, um, because I've seen a lot of Erbs palsy people being in 1 point. And I started to realize that I could no longer compete at the 2 point. They were doing movements and like bar muscle ups, which is crazy good for you guys, but hard pass. And even like connecting toes to bar and stuff. Like at first I thought I wasn't strong enough, and that's why I was working with a coach and I was doing all this extra work. I thought I just needed to get my arms stronger. And then after doing it for that long, I realized it wasn't a problem with my strength. It was a problem with my range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm switching to 1 point, and I'm freaking loving it. It is so much fun. I am like in love with CrossFit again because I'm having so much fun. I'm learning all these new things. Um, but my right arm is getting really, really weak and it sticks
Yeah.
out, and I'm like cradling it a lot more. And it actually does start to have some pains in it, like when I'm typing on a keyboard and stuff. But that's okay. I have a goal of making it to one more game, one more wheel wad. I love this idea of Vegas. I think that'd be so much fun. I want to make it, and if I don't make it, that's okay. I would be willing to do this one more year and try to make it, and if I don't, then that's okay. Um, I will try to, get involved with wheel wad and do it on that side rather than competing. But I would love to make it one more time. I'm aiming for 10th place. Yo, like I'm not going for first. I just want to go and see all my
Just sneak
friends
in
and
there.
socialize. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like the opposite of what they say for CrossFit. Everyone for CrossFit's like, do better,
Yeah.
aim for first. And I'm like, nah, I just want to go get all the
Well,
swag, hang
and
out
I
with
think that's a
people.
beautiful way to like re going back to the thing about integrating your identity, right? Like figuring out what's important to you
Mm-hmm.
and then not having it just be that when one thing falls away, it all falls apart.
Totally.
Creating a more cohesive foundation, identity, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Can we go to a
Yeah.
lightning round?
Okay, totally.
All right. So, would you rather do Fran or Murph?
Mm, Murph.
Murph, you like a longer
Yeah.
workout?
I do strive better for long workouts. Also, just Fran sucks.
Yeah, that does. That's 100% true. If you could pick the music every day at the gym, what would be playing?
We would be straight up 90s.
Okay, but straight up 90s, like,
BSB, Britney. I
okay,
mean, yeah,
you're
it's bad.
toxic now.
It's bad
Yeah,
music.
that's okay. Hey, I don't hate
I'm
it. I
dating
don't hate. You
myself.
need no, you need like Crash by Dave Matthews. Actually, I don't think I could work out to Crash by Dave
No,
Matthews.
but Dave is one of my favorites. Yes, I've seen him probably 20 times in my life.
Really?
I'm
That's
obsessed with Dave
amazing.
Matthews. Well, it's a generational thing.
No, no, I love him. I've never had a chance to see him, but I think
Oh,
that'd just be
he's
such a
great.
great
Oh,
concert.
man. Yeah, he just jams out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay. If anybody follows you on Instagram, especially your stories, they know that you love a good pun. Okay.
So stupid.
So give me one of your best puns.
My favorite, well, not pun, favorite joke of all time, right? Is when does a joke become a dad joke?
When?
When it becomes a parent. So good, right?
And like, okay, so you will post like a whiteboard with a joke written on it. Are you writing those jokes each week, or is that someone else
Yeah,
at your on your
that's
shift?
that's my office door at work. Yeah, I try to bring a little bit of humor to the classroom. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I love it. I love it, guys. If you're not following Meg, you have got to follow her just for those puns. All right, when you're working out, what is your go-to workout snack?
Snacks. Honestly, I'm lame. I think it's also kind of goes back to like having eating disorders, but like a banana,
Yeah.
protein shake, nothing crazy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't want
And
to throw
then
up.
that's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you could write your ideal workout, what would it look like? What movements would it have in it?
So I love row. I think that's one of my strongest movements, at least when I was 2 point. I'm about to figure it out with 1 point.
Yep.
I like cleans a lot. I used to like wall balls, but I'm about to figure them out one-handed. And I used to like double unders, and now I'm playing with the mono rope for the first time in my life, and I have literally I can count 72 double unders my entire life done
Yeah.
in a
Wow.
month. So something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for that lightning round. I've got two
Hmm.
more questions for you as we wrap up. If someone is new to adaptive CrossFit and they want to get into a CrossFit gym, what would you tell them to encourage them?
Oh my gosh. Like I said, I really do go up to strangers and tell them about CrossFit if I see that they have a disability. And I'm sure they're probably like me and they're like, please don't point this out. Like, but yeah, do it. Like, this community is the best community ever. And like it's so worth it. You learn to get rid of the I can't. Like, I think before that I used to say I can't, and now I'm like, I can't yet. Like, I'm still working on it. Like, I won't ever say I can't do anything anymore. I realize I can do things. It's just going to take me a little bit longer to get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And last question. If you could go back and talk to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell
Oh God, be kind to yourself.
them?
Meg, you are an amazing person. You're kind, you're loving, you are smart, and you're more than just someone who, has a arm that sticks out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for doing this and bringing attention to all the adaptives, because it's a good group and we deserve it. So thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you. All right. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. I appreciated Meg's story, how vulnerable she was about her journey to discovering what the right balance was between being a competitive CrossFitter and just an athlete and a human being who wanted to enjoy life fully. I think she's finding that balance now. Maybe that story resonated for you. If it resonated with you, especially around the eating disorder, but also around the idea of just hitting the intensity just a little bit too hard in CrossFit, reach out to Meg. Her handle is in the show notes, and you can reach out to her on Instagram and share your story with her as well. One way that you can help this podcast go further and reach more people is by sharing it with someone. Whether you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, share it on Instagram. Tell somebody about it. Pass it along, because there's probably an adaptive athlete out there or a coach who coaches adaptive athletes who would benefit from hearing the stories that this podcast is telling. I'm Matt Hotho, and I'll catch you guys next time.